Welcome.
To the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 112 of The Joy of Coding. My name's Mike Conley. As per usual, going to be hacking on some Firefox stuff today. This is one of those episodes where I really haven't done a whole lot of prep as per usual, so who knows what sorts of hijinks we're going to get into. We'll just see how it goes. So, thanks for being here. It's episode 112. Here's my screen. And here is the agenda. First of all, let me just make sure everything's working. Just a quick self-check. I'm not dropping frames. You can hear sounds. Yep. Okay, a reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I didn't even put together a plan, so there's really no way that a plan is going to survive. I've misled you a little bit. Before, like maybe 2 minutes ago, I dumped some ideas for things we could do into this list, and we'll see how it goes. I haven't thought really through it. I don't know whether or not they're going to be good things to do. We might get stuck. We might get sidelined. That's okay though. I'm trying to capture the real development experience here. So if that's just part of life. That's part of software engineering. Is you'll work on something maybe and you'll get stuck and you'll have to ask someone for help, or you find out that what you're trying to do can't be done or it needs to be done differently and you have to throw a bunch of stuff out. That's life. Hopefully we don't hit any of those, but you never know. I mean, with enough planning, you shouldn't hit any of those, but I didn't really plan, so we'll see. Now, before we get into it, I want to draw your attention to the episode guide. This is probably only useful if you're watching previous episodes, because there's probably not a guide up yet for this video, unless you're watching this in the future, which, according to my statistics, is the majority of you are watching this in the future. So maybe this is something you care about. Who knows? Maybe there's a guide available for this episode already. This episode guide is on GitHub. And this has episodes all the way up to 111. I think it's got all of them. I haven't gone through and done like a proper count, but this is purely community driven. I haven't done a whole lot except started the repository and merged a bunch of stuff. It was S. Foster's idea, Sam Foster's idea. It was a great idea. I'm happily accepting pull requests. So if you have notes, if you have things that you want to add to the agendas, like some of these are pretty straightforward. It's like on the guide for episode 91, it happened in February 15th of this year, and then it's just a link to the Airmo video and the Evernote agenda, which is here, and that's fine. That's a fine episode guide. But some of them are a little more verbose, like episode 1, someone's been going through, I think Sam's been going through and like saying what some of the topics are, and links to other things. And you could link to your own notes, like you could maybe add your own notes here, things that you find useful. Maybe a full episode transcript. Who knows? It's up to you. I'm very lenient when it comes to merging. I'll happily merge whatever comes in so long as it's not actively hostile to readers. And this is another kind of cool thing. If you go to mikeconley.github.io/joyofcodingepisodeguide, it's published using a GitHub page. Like there's this nice themed view of the guide, so I'm just going to put a link to that here in the agenda, which I should mention. I forgot to mention the agenda. Holy smokes. So all these links that we're looking at right now, if you're new, if you're watching this for the first time, these links on the video are probably not super useful because you can't click on a video and get the links to happen. But depending on where you're watching this, you have access to the agenda that I'm looking at right now. So if you're watching this on AirMozilla, scroll down to the additional links section because there's a link to the agenda. And if you're on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube Live or you're watching this on YouTube in the future sometime, it should be in the video description. If you're watching this on Twitch, I'm about to drop it into the Twitch chat. So here you go. Here's the agenda. And also a link to rating the episode, so you can let me know what you think. So I've dropped that in the Twitch chat, and if you're watching this on Facebook Live, then there should be a pinned comment at the top with the agenda and the rate this episode link. Okay, so then you can click on things, and as I update this, because I might add things to this list, I already added this link, it will, like, this little spinning wheel will happen, like, new thing. This little spinning wheel will mean it's synchronizing, and then if you reload the agenda, then it should have the change. Okay, so what did I want to do today?
Mamma mia!
I want to do some reviews. I've got some reviews in my queue, and I want to get through those. And I also want to. Uh, what else do I want to do? I've got a project here. I think we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, where we were working on tab warming, and that's something that we got working, but then it got turned off. And I think it was last week we were looking at a way we could turn it back on. We turned it off because it was causing a regression, where if you were like to hover a tab, it would cause video to play inside the tab if the video was like paused or blocked or something. And we found out what the problem was, and we came up with a solution, sort of a vague, hacky prototype solution. But the prototype solution is it's not worth shipping, at least not in the state it was whenever we wrote it. And it's too late for 57 for it to land, because 57, if you look at the calendar right now, it's September 13th. There is like a soft code freeze for Firefox 57 in 2 days, and then there's a week of stabilization for bug fixes, and then the merge to beta, so Firefox beta will become Firefox 57. The merge to the repository is going to happen on the 20th of September, and then the actual release of Firefox beta happens shortly after, like a couple of days after that, I think. So it's too late. It's too late to do anything risky. Like, as we approach the end of the cycle, we get a little bit more risk averse. We don't want to land anything crazy that's going to, cause instability in the beta channel. So we can spend some time coming up with a solution that we can maybe apply to Firefox 58 when Firefox 58 becomes central, and then we can like land the patch there. And another thing that's just kind of on my mind that I'll mention, because I might keep looking, you might notice me glancing in this direction periodically, and what I'm looking at is I've got a piece of hardware here. This is a Windows laptop, and I am installing Windows 10 Insider Edition on it right now, and it's taking forever. It's at 18%. It's taking forever, and I'm just kind of babysitting it, because these things sometimes ask you questions. So I might like have to dive to the left and like answer a question. I just want to get that installed, and the reason I'm doing that is because I'm looking at a performance bug right now that I think might have something to do with the upcoming update to Windows 10. But we'll see. That's all hypothesis. But anyways, if you notice me glancing in this direction or like fiddling around over here, it's because I'm probably answering a question on that laptop. So let's get started. That's enough talking, enough rigmarole. Let's get started and work on some reviews. So I've got 2 bugs that I've actually, my review queue is pretty long, but I've chosen some that I thought might be interesting to review. Although I didn't really look at the patches, I just looked at the summaries of the bug. Summaries of the bugs, I should say. So this is bug 1399075. Colon sign is displayed in About Preferences General page in colors subdialog. So this is about the About Preferences page, like this page, or one of these pages, one of the panes in here, and it's talking specifically about. Oh, there's a screenshot. That's good. It says that there's a colon. This is pretty polishy. There's a colon at the end of the sentence here. And it says that all colon signs on subdialogues should be removed, according to Hani Yaqub, who is from SoftVision, our QA contractors or QA, the folks who do QA for us on Firefox. And I guess that's the case. Like, there's probably a spec, and they're saying we definitely don't want colons in subdialogues. Note, there's another colon sign displayed in a connection settings subdialog under network proxy selection. So that's a thing. All colon signs. Shouldn't we like, I wonder if we should just like fix both of these at the same time. So Ricky Shen has a patch. He's doing the right thing by bumping the key, I think, bumping the key and override default page colors to access key and label. Now, he's overridden the he's changed the label. Hasn't actually changed the access key, but I guess he's trying to keep the label and the access key with the same sort of namespace. Um, yeah, I think this is okay. But so this is an easy review. Like, it's a string update. You know, he's updating the string here. You have to update the keys when you update a string. He's done that. Let's do a quick check to see if there are other places where the string is used, just to be sure. There should only be 3 places. Override default page colors, auto. That's interesting. Page colors. Okay, here they are. It's 2.label. Okay, so access key and label are the ones we care about. Label. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then the definitions here. So it looks like he got them all. That's good. And so I'm going to say, I'm going to open up another tab here with the original, that there was another one in connection settings. So I'm going to say, thanks, Ricky. It's always a good job. It's a good idea to thank your patch author, no matter what the result of the review. Thanks for the patch. So I'll start there. This looks fine. Note that in comment 0, the reporter says, I should probably name them. Hani says, there's a, do we want to do that in a follow-up bug? Okay, so I'm going to, or is there another bug already assigned, already written? Let's see if there's another bug already filed for it. Colon, I don't see one. So I just want to make sure that we don't lose track of it. So publish. R plus looks good to me. So that's one review. That was easy. Done. So the second one's going to be a little bit harder because if I remember correctly, this is a bunch of patches. I'm just going to stretch a little bit. Oh boy, bunch of patches. So Gandalf, aka, excuse me, ZB, I think that's how I pronounce his name, but I'm going to call him Gandalf from here on out. He's working on an optimization where we're going to make the initial browser window, or the initial browser in a new window. So anytime you open up a browser, we declaratively say that there is an initial browser tab, so like this one here, the initial browser window. But we usually load something called about blank in there until the actual page that we want to load, for example, about home or activity stream or what have you, gets computed. Like, we make this decision about what we want to load, but by that time we've already loaded blank inside the initial browser. And so then we overwrite blank with something else. And Gandalf's found a way of making it so we don't load anything until we've determined what it is that we want to load. So we kind of like load the first thing that we actually care about. And that has apparently got some nice little performance wins on new window opening and on browser startup, because there's less to think about. Constructing that about blank viewer isn't free, so it's a nice little win there. But there are a number of tests that it breaks. And so Gandalf has some patches that attempt to fix this, and he's asking for a review from a bunch of people on it. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at what he's doing kind of holistically. So this is the most important part. He's saying that there's no default source, meaning don't load anything in this browser first. Don't even load about blank. That's the important part. And everything else is just like test fixing. And this means that like after you've computed what to load, even if it turns out what we have to load is about blank, then load about blank. Because we weren't doing that before, because we had assumed that about blank would be loaded. So that's good. With so part 0, make the initial browser and tab browser not load. Okay, so there's some spelling errors in here. These are minor. Knit, some spelling errors in here. Spurious to spurious. And then this patch unifies the behavior of the initial tab in a window with consecutive. Unifies the behavior of the initial tab in a window with consecutive tabs. So I'm going to say I'm not fully sure. I'm not fully sure what this means. Perhaps this might be clear. This patch makes it so that we don't load a useless about blank in the initial tab. Useless about blank viewer. Initial tab when creating a new window. Browser window. Hi, press Dr. Long unnecessary. Okay. So, I mean, that looks okay to me. That looks fine. That looks like the right move. Let's look at the next one. Make browser test utils open new browser window. Load about blank URL into it by default. Most Moki tests have been written with an assumption that every new window has a document loaded in its first tab by default. So he's adding a new param. Open new browser window, the default URL to be loaded. Wait, browser start finished. And what were we doing before? Load promise first browser loaded. Oh yeah, that's nice. Await startup promise. And then if we are going to load something, then we wait for it to load. That looks good to me. That makes sense. That seems sane. Thanks. What's the next one? Use about blank as a default URL for accessibility tests. Multiple accessibility tests depend on a document being loaded into the first tab of a new window. Since we're moving it from tab browser, let's read it. Let's typo. Read. Should this be redirect? Not sure what this last sentence is trying to say. Oh, let's re-add it. Let's re-add it. Since we're moving it, let's re-add it. Knit. Read. Re-add. Since we're moving it from tab browser, perhaps to be clear, instead of saying since we're removing it from tab browser XML, we should be more explicit and say since we're not loading about blank, since we're not loading a document into the first tab of a new window by default. So not loading a document in the first new tab into the first window of a new window, first tab of a new window by default. Well, is that true? When delayed startup finished. first tab window by default. Wait a second. Browser.js. dxr browser.js. Handle URI to load. URI load promise. You promise if or resolve? No. So it could be null. So into the first tab, a new window by default. Anymore. We'll add it to the tests. The about blank load to the tests. And the last patch, fine-tune Moki test headers to wait for browser to be loaded. When delayed start finish when new window loaded. Gotta see how that works. Callback. Fine-tune Mocha testers wait for browser to be loaded. Several header functions were not completely waiting for the new window to be initialized. Typo. The behavior was racy. Racy. I think. Is it racy? And define racy. Having distinctive or quality taste, strong and sharp flavor, ribald. How racy. Define. Not Urban Dictionary. So it's kind of a made-up word. So I'm going to say racy. The behavior was racy, and the switch to the initial browser to no default source made it more pronounced. No default RC. No default source. So this looks okay. We'll wait for the initial browser. Start finish. So when new browser loaded is the one I'm worried about here. Let's see where it's used. All over the place, but under general here, and then we wait for focus. But you know what? If it's working for them, undelayed startup finished. That works for me. So where is when delayed startup finished defined? In general head. Looks good. Thanks, Gandalf. When this all settles out, it might be worth posting to Firefox Dev so that people know to expect the initial browser to not load anything about, to not load about blank anymore. right. So mostly what I found were not like code problems so much as like typos and commit messages and stuff. But there we go. Did some reviews. It's 125. Because otherwise, I was like looking at these patches. They're pretty straightforward. What he's doing is he's like, because we have to wait after delayed startup for the about blank to then be loaded, and so he's just waiting for that before continuing. And over here, he's just like delaying the test further. I'm curious, is he doing try builds, try pushes? Not sure, but the reviews are done. That's good. I'm just gonna quickly check to see how this Win 10 install is going. Oh, the PC is gonna restart soon. That is typical for an install of Windows. Um, okay, so what's the next thing then? Any any guesses? Oh yeah, the tab warming stuff. Okay, great. So I have a checkout of the tree, and I think I have a recent build ready to roll here. Let me just make sure. I definitely have a debug build. Let me check if this real build will work. But we had talked about it last week, and let's take a look. I actually think I have notes. Here, yeah. So I'm going to create a new note for this bug. This bug is this. Well, first of all, let me just put that in there. And I will link to the note in the agenda. Right here. Notes. There you go. I want to tell the tab child warm up this tab and use the same high-speed pathways that switching the tab uses. Suppose I had a new argument to that. The second one had doubts. Set doc shells. I think I were. Okay. So how? Okay. So this is more likely going to land in Firefox 58 once it's had time to settle and stabilize. 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 How do you spell stabilize? With an I. Okay. So how's this gonna work? Where's the risk? I'm mostly worried about the state. A dock shell can be active or inactive. And now we're adding like this sort of weird intermediary state, which is warming. And that's not just being tracked by the parent, but that means that there's like a loading. Loading. Warming. Warmed. How would we work this? So I think the first thing is examine the prototype patch to figure out how to deduplicate code. Because as I recall, I was copying and pasting code in a bunch of places, and I think I want to factor some of that out into helper functions and tab child. And once we do that, I think what we can do is make it so that when the async tab switcher says warm tab, tab parent sends a message to tab child to make the pres shell active and visible and paint. Make sure that set doc shell is active handles this case. Make sure we can use the fast path too, in case we're dealing with slow JavaScript. And then what we need to do is I'm gonna need an unwarm collection as well, an unwarm method as well to tell the tab child to put away. We'll need to assert that doc shell is not active. Preserve layers. Is there like a drop layers? Maybe there's something similar there. Preserve layers. We had this preserve layers thing. Preserve layers, and then do we have like drop layers? Looking at the original implementation. Where did he add? Epoch using sequencing, main patch maybe. Where were preserve layers added? Oh, it used to be set doc shell is active in foreground. So where do we call preserve layers from out of curiosity? Oh, whoops. We change the size of the window. Preserve layers. Oh, if the window is minimized, we want to preserve layers. Okay. So not exactly it. It's like preserve layers. Because like this is similar. What's the relationship with warm up, warm tab, warm, unwarm, and preserve layers? Like how does preserve layers work? It's just that's a bool. Send set doc shell is active. Oh, it modifies how we say to set the doc shell to be active. Okay. Interesting. So when we say preserve layers, we send a different argument down when we say activate the doc shell. Presumably it's because if we are saying preserve, if we have preserve layers set and we're saying deactivate the doc shell, that means don't drop the layers. Finish internal. Preserve layers is here. And if we're not preserving the layers, we make hidden. So that's basically how you unwarm a tab, I guess, is make hidden. Yeah. Hide all plugins, and we say hide it all. Clear cached resources. Get layer manager, and we tell it, hey, clear. Okay, great. Okay, good. So we know how to unwarm a tab. I think we know how to warm a tab. And then whenever we probably want to keep preserved layers around because we want to be able to say set doc shell is active to false, but keep the layers around. Okay. Windows be updating. Okay. How's that build going? Still building. Warm, unwarm, and preserve layers. Okay. And I think I know how warm works. I think we've just figured out how unwarm works. And preserve layers is like preserve layers essentially says don't unwarm. And maybe the wording is wrong. Maybe the wording is wrong. Maybe instead of an unwarm, it should be create layers or render layers and clear layers. Render layers, clear layers. Or like upload layers, clear layers, clear layers. Something like that. And then that makes sense with preserve layers. Okay. And then how does this change things for the async tab switcher? So we'll have the API call, have the async tab switcher. I think we have to keep a collection again. Keep a collection of warm tabs. I think that's what we're going to have to do. Keep a collection of warm tabs. And on eviction, unwarm the ones. Unwarm the oldest. I know Bill didn't really want a new collection, but I think this allows us to sidestep. Don't associate warming with tab state. I think because I don't want to add a new state. I think we can make that work. Don't associate warming with tab state. Okay. I'm gonna write up this plan inside the bug and get Bill's feedback on it. That's how I'm gonna start. So in bug 1394455, I found that it was possible to cause a tab child to paint and upload its layers without activating the dock shell. This duplicates a bunch of the steps to do this are very similar to the ones already in set dock. Was it internal set dock shell is active? That was called internal set dock shell. Internal set dock shell is active, yeah. And will likely need to be factored out into one or more helper methods. Once that's done, it should be possible to add some IPC messages, some async IPC messages to say render layers and clear layers which I think is more in tune with the preserve layers stuff that's already going on, as opposed to warm tab and unwarm tab. Once, or maybe I won't justify it. I'll just, maybe it'll be just obvious. I'll add some IPC messages, render layers, and clear layers, which correspond to warming and unwarming a particular tab child. That should be pretty straightforward. I think that should be pretty straightforward. Once that's done, the trick after that, I should say, the trick will be to modify the async tab switcher to use this new mechanism. I'm really loath to add a new state to the tab states. I suspect that will break lots of things for minimal gain. I suspect that will break lots of things. What I think I want to do instead is similar to what I want to do instead is similar to my original approach to bug. Have a fixed size collection of warming tabs. When a tab is warmed, we send the render layers message tab. When we hit the maximum number of when we exceed the maximum warming tabs threshold, we call clear layers on the oldest warmed tab. When a tab is switched to, we remove it from the warming collection. Switch to, if a tab is closed or destroyed, tab goes away, we remove it from the warming collection. Doing this allows us to, if we do it this way, I think we get all of the, I think state loaded and state loaded and state unloaded stop meaning layers are ready, and start meaning dock shell is active and layers are ready. Maybe I think that's what it always meant. What am I trying to say here? If we do it this way, the logic for activating and deactivating the dock shell can stay the same. What do you think of this vague plan, Bill M? Or should I try adding some kind of state warming instead? State warming and state unwarming instead. Need more information from Bill M. Now, oh, he's on PTO, he's back on the 18th. While I wait to hear back, since Bill M is on PTO until the 18th, I'll get the patch, the native layer patch written up. Okay. T-Blood T says, my personal pet peeve about the nightly redesign is that the traffic light buttons are about 2 pixels too high. Where would I change that? Are you talking about these? These buttons right here? Too high? Well, there's probably some CSS you could... Whoa, that was an interesting glitch. Thanks, OSX. There was an interesting visual glitch there. I think you can modify that using some CSS probably. Let me see if I can find the CSS rule you could use. Title bar placeholder, all tabs button, full screen button, tabs. I think it's like the title bar. The nav bar, where's the title bar? Right here. Title bar content, title bar spacer, button box, secondary button box, title bar button box, minimize. So I think it's this, and if you like, let's say you said it's 2 pixels too high, then let's make the margin top, let's add 2. There you go, margin top 8. Better? I don't think the traffic lights would be managed by CSS since the traffic lights are provided by the OS. Yes, they're provided by the OS, but you'd be surprised. We do a lot of work in our widget layer to make it so that we can draw OS things, um, draw and modify OS things with CSS. Bam! Time to send a patch, says TBloodT. Go for it. Go for it. If you want to send a patch, go for it. It's possible that, you know, there's a plan in place, or there's some reason why it's, what was this, 6 and not 8. But yeah, send a patch and see what happens. The file you're looking for is, here, let's copy this rule. Let's see if we can find the file you need to be messing with. Oh wow. Here, let me just, here we go, on OS X. I think this is the rule right there. TBloodT. That's the rule you'll want to patch, I think. And this was recently June 1st is when it was changed most recently. So, you know, you'll want to ask Dow whether or not, you know, Dow or Johan, whether or not changing that to 8 makes sense. Seemed to look better to me. I think you're on the right track. But I do know that, like, Johan recently landed a patch to add more drag space to the top. Drag space to the top of the window, which might affect this. Where did you open the inspector for the tab bar? I went to Tools, Web Developer, Browser Toolbox. And that's not, I don't think, enabled by default. If you need to enable it, you can open up your DevTools settings, and it's under the gear menu here. Oh man, my computer's really slow because I'm streaming and I'm building. And you enable browser, Chrome, and add-on debugging toolboxes and remote debugging. You turn these two on, and then you get the browser toolbox in Nightly. So hopefully that's useful. Thanks for writing it. Now I'm going to close the toolbox. So Johan added more drag space. And let's see, maybe he even modified the rule that you're touching. Extra drag space pref. Yeah, he did. Just a heads up. Just a heads up, TBloodT. They touched this just landed, so what I showed you is slightly out of date. And so who knows, maybe what you're worried about has already been fixed, because they're attempting to vertically center the window controls. So maybe wait until tomorrow, TBloodT. Wait until tomorrow, because this just landed, and I think should be in tomorrow's Nightly. And if it's still busted, like, I don't even think, yeah, 3 hours ago it got auto landed, and it will probably be in Central in a couple of hours, which means in the next couple of Nightlies, because we do 2 Nightlies a day, so there might be a Nightly tonight with it or a Nightly tomorrow. If it doesn't bounce, TBloodT says, hey, it looks like it fixes my thing. We'll see. You know, if maybe apply the patch. If you're feeling adventurous, you could try applying these patches yourself manually. Alternatively, wait until tomorrow's Nightly, because maybe they fixed it. Wow, I go to try and fix a bug and find it was fixed 3 hours ago. That sometimes that happens. It sucks whenever you. Sometimes that's bad too, because you spend a lot of time fixing a thing only to find out that someone else was also working on fixing it, and then they beat you to it, and then you wasted time. At least you didn't waste a whole lot of time. Because I've definitely had that scenario happen where, like, I failed to mark a bug as assigned to myself. I forgot to take it, and then I worked on a patch, and then just as I was posting it, I realized someone else had posted a patch for it. It was annoying. But if you are interested in more, there's plenty of work if you want to like mess around with the CSS of the browser. There's plenty of work to do to make it even better. You might want to check the Bugs Ahoy list. Bugs Ahoy, the good first bugs. But if you're like, this is one way of getting yourself started. If you're new, I mean, maybe T-Blah-T, you're experienced and you know you've submitted patches before. It sounds like you've submitted patches before, but just in case you haven't, there's some CSS and HTML stuff you could potentially work on with mentored bugs. And if not, if you like feel comfortable, then what you might want to do is look at like some P3 bugs for like the T-Blood. He says, I've never touched the Mozilla codebase before. In that case, these are great things to choose. Welcome. You should totally write patches. We love patches. So check out some of the mentored bugs in here. When you have a mentored bug, you know, someone will walk you through the whole, not just solving the problem. So I don't have a repo clone or anything. That's okay. Actually, you might. This is actually an excellent opportunity to plug something. So first of all, I'll finish my last thought. These bugs are all mentored, meaning someone will walk you through not only, you know, finding where in the code to fix the bug, but also setting up the repository, getting your build going, submitting the patch, getting the patch reviewed. They'll shepherd you through the pipeline. So if you're interested in doing any of that, I highly recommend creating a Bugzilla account and then trying, like, commenting in one of these bugs and saying like, hey, can I work on this? It's best to work on to ask that in bugs where they're unassigned, or it's been a long time since they've been updated, because sometimes someone will work on a mentored bug and then like school starts and then they can't work on it anymore and then they forget to mention it. Like right here, there's been 31 days since the last update in this bug, but it was unassigned. Some of these are assigned to nobody, and that's good. But this one here, this one is assigned to, you can't see this little box, is too small, but it's assigned to Ayush Parikh, but it's been 188 days since the last update. So probably they're not working on it anymore, and you can probably take it. Now, before I continue, I want to plug something else while we're talking about contributing. There's this cool project called the Janitor. Janitor.technology. I'm going to put a link to that in the notes. Actually, so hang on. Let's put a link to and Janitor. So what Janitor allows you to do is Janitor allows you to sidestep the whole cloning process too, because what it does is it allows you to edit Fire and like contribute to Firefox in the cloud. Clear formatting. So you like sign up for the alpha, and let's see, how do I describe it? You like can contribute, and not just to Firefox, but to like Chromium, Thunderbird, Servo, KDE. They're adding more, and Janitor itself. But like it creates for you this. Here, I'll mute this video, but I'll fast forward. You sign up for Janitor, and then instead of going through all these build steps, once you say like edit, contribute to, like once you've created your account, you go to like edit, and then it opens up this web IDE with a terminal at the bottom, and that terminal has like a clone all ready to go, and then the source code's already here all ready to go. You make your changes, and then you use the mock commands to build, and he demonstrates it in the video. He's changing some colors. He's changing a bunch of colors in the dev tools, I think, to green. And then he does like mock build, and this is in the cloud, so you're not doing the local build on your machine. You're just like, you're doing it on some Amazon machine, I think, out in the wild. And then you can connect to a VNC server, just all in your browser. This happens all in your browser. You connect to this VNC server, and then you can run the build that you just built on the machine using the VNC viewer built into the browser. And so he's running it right now, and like this is the build that you just modified, and he's changed like a bunch of colors to green. And you didn't even have to like clone the repo or you know, install the dependencies. You could do this on your iPad if you wanted to. Like, no one would ever build Firefox on the iPad. You could build it for the iPad, but you wouldn't build it on an iPad. Downside, I have to wait for an invitation. Is that true? Join the alpha. Well, if you add your email address, yeah, I guess you have to wait for an invitation, but you never know. There's an IRC channel. Maybe you, I wouldn't recommend going in there and be like, hey, invite me, but maybe you can ask, like, hey, how long until I get added in the janitor IRC channel on Freenode. So that's a thing you could do. Anyways, I'm taking up too much time. Other downside, only Mac has traffic lights. This is true. So, I mean, the modification we just saw only works on Linux, and I'm pretty sure all the like VNC stuff only works on Linux. So, if you're using the janitor, the fix should probably be for something that's cross-platform or Linux only. Woo-wee! That's a lot of talking. Oh, apparently the stream has stopped? Am I frozen? Am I frozen? I hope not. What's going on here? Am I stopped on YouTube? Am I stopped on Facebook? Twitch, I'm apparently rolling. Facebook, all good. YouTube, all good. Aramo, all good. So if it appears that the video stopped, just reload. I'm not sure what's going on there. Apparently I'm all good. So, got a little sidetracked there. That's okay. I talked about Bugs Ahoy. I talked about Janitor. I want to like start working on that patch though. How's my build going? I've sort of been killing time waiting for this build to finish. It's taking forever. I guess I didn't do a normal default build with this pull from the repository. I'm 34 minutes in, and SC cache says I'm hitting some of the cache sometimes. I've got this like C cache thing, excuse me, that also does Rust code along with C code that's being compiled. And what's nice is that I'm sometimes hitting the cache, which should be helping to speed up the build. And I'm also noticing that like when I show status, I'm also like missing the cache quite a bit as well. 364 misses, 366 misses. I may be missing the cache a lot for the next little while, and that's pretty bad. This is going to slow the build down, but you know, that's life. So while we're waiting for that, though, I guess we can plan. We can plan and conspire. Maybe we can take a look at the prototype patch and figure out how we're going to deduplicate things. So let's go and see if we can find that prototype patch that I wrote with you all last week and figure out our next steps. So I'm going to pump up the jam, pump up the text here. Pump the jam, pump it up. And let me just make the window a nice size. Whoops. We're going to go into Mozilla Central, and then I'm going to see if I can find the most recent like commits. I didn't create a bookmark for it or anything, unfortunately. Stream is stopped. SmurfD says it's not stopped on Aramos. So, and I checked SmurfD. I checked on I checked in a couple of other places as well, and I checked on all the streams. I seem to be doing okay. So Zelda, I hope if you're still watching, reload. Okay. So where hacking's for a better warm up. That's what I wanted to look at. So I'm going to rebase that. And I'm going to put it on tip, and we're going to examine it. Also, I want to thank SmurfD. So I think SmurfD was one of the most recent contributors to the episode guide. Let's take a look. Who's been contributing? Sam Foster, someone named New Proggy, and Smurf D. Smurf D contributed episode 2 and then 3 and a bunch more. And then New Proggy did a few more as well. What would be really nice is if I could find a way of like easily converting Evernote documents into Markdown documents, and then I'll just do a mass conversion of all of my agendas, pull them out of Evernote, and put them into GitHub. That'd be nice. I'd like to grow less and less dependent on the Evernote web infrastructure if I could, but we'll see. So that rebase, wow, taken forever. I guess that's probably because I'm also building. Maybe there's a sound I can play while we wait.
What happened? I can't do my work!
Couple more. Maybe 2 more.
Here we go!
That was 1, and here's 2. All fun sounds. Is that rebase done yet? Holy smokes. Everything is so slow right now, and it is boiling in here. I have got a lot of machines. I've got like the monitor for the stream over here. I've got my machine in front of me, and I've got this machine over here installing Windows 10 and my tablet. So I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens all around me just radiating heat. My hair's all gonna fall out or something. And the door is closed because I don't want to make a lot of noise and bother people. So it is boiling in here. It probably smells really bad. I'm sweating. I'm just giving you some body updates. I'm sure you enjoy that.
You all?
Come on. Why is this rebase taking so long? Boo, 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 boo. Forever. Firefox 57 merges to beta on the 20th. That's next week. And so Firefox 57 beta. If you're a nightly user, that's great. But if you want to help even more, we need to make sure that Firefox 57 is going to be incredible. We want it to be like a huge splash. We want people's minds to be blown. And so if you're willing to, it'd be great if you could follow Firefox 57 as it rides the trains out. That way we can ensure that bugs that get filed are getting filed for 57, because we want to make sure that no regressions slip into 57 that are like going to break the world for somebody. So like really let's focus on quality for 57. So whenever it reaches beta, I know I myself am going to switch to the beta channel on here and at home and like all sorts of places, and just gonna file bugs like crazy if and when I see any. And you should too if you care about Firefox, because we want 57 to be like just knocking it out of the park. We want it to be incredible, and you can help. So there you go. Okay. Oh, no big deal. Just compiling servo over here, apparently. Okay, so the rebase is done. Let's take a look at the patch that we had written. Oh, whoops, wrong one. I need to look at the one we just rebased on top of central, or on top of tip? Where did I put it? Wow, what is... Believe it or not, OBS is eating a lot of my CPU. But so is Rust and Clang. They're all just competing to a high degree. Memory, I'm doing okay though. It's CPU that's just like getting destroyed. Okay, let's export tip. So I commented some stuff out. This I might not actually have to worry about if I don't couple warming to the tab states. So what I did was I added a warm up method to tab parent, a warm-up message. This is the stuff I care about. So all of this I've more or less copied from here. Where is it? Tab child. Internal set doc shell. Wake up, computer. Computer? What are you doing? Oh, you know, just building. Hey, my Windows 10 Insider preview build might be done. Let's see. Let's see what it says. Internal set doc shell. What is? Come on, pull it together, pull it together, Sublime. Oh, updates are installing for my Windows 10 box over there. Build continues apace. Sublime is trying to figure out what I'm trying to say. I should probably, there we go. So I mostly copied like this stuff. So we need to alert the processing more that we finished responding to what might have been a request to force paint. Clear force paint. If is active. On scope exit, we're going to clear force paint. And then we do all of these things. We're setting these epochs. We send the current layer observer epoch to the compiler so that the tab parent knows whether a layer update notification corresponds to the latest set doc shell is active request that was made. So I think, did I do that over here as well? No, but I might need to. Basically, I need to do everything except set the doc shell as active. If make active. What are we using active tabs for? That's interesting. S active tabs. What's that used for? Hey, alright, I've installed the creators update. Great. Active tab. Oh, it's a static. But why? What's this for? Keep track of foreground tab children. Okay. Okay, that I don't think we want. That part, this part we don't want to be part of warming because it's not going into the foreground. The paint time, yeah. All of this scheduling of paints, like all of this stuff we want to be, all of this stuff, we want that. We don't want this. I don't think we want this. Force paint no op. We might want to do that. That might be tricky. I have to understand the no-op stuff. I'm not sure if we need to do this stuff, and I'm not sure if we need to do that stuff. So that's going to be the hard part, is figuring out whether or not we need to do that stuff. Okay. Okay. You know what I'm going to do, actually? So the heat in this room is just absolutely killing me. I might just stop here. I know that it was maybe about to get exciting. We're going to maybe start picking this apart. We've only got 15 minutes until I have to stop this anyway. I don't think I'd be able to get in very far anyways. But I think we've more or less got a solid plan moving forward. I need feedback from Bill M. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cap the episode here a little bit early, and then maybe we can continue next week. And next week will be the 20th. Maybe Bill M will be back, and we can start moving forward. All right. Hey, thanks so much for watching episode 12 of The Joy of Coding. Didn't get a lot of coding done today, but reviewed some stuff and did some planning, which is good. Planning's always good. Also, I showed how to open the toolbox, change some styling, and use the janitor and find bugs. So you might find that interesting. But in any case, thanks so much for watching. I hope that was enjoyable. And rate this episode. Let me know what you thought. Did you like the fact that I did some reviews today? Did you like the fact that I was talking to people in IRC? Let me know. Fill in the form and let me know what you like. I read everything that comes in. Okay, I will see you next week for episode 113. It's gonna be a good one, and hopefully the room won't be as hot. I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. Oh, you know what I'll do is I'll make sure that I don't bring in these extra machines. Okay, so I'll see you next. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.